I want to be your state representative because I think that the current representative that we have has said no on so many important things.
All right, now I want to get to the real question why I got you here. Why does East Lyme not have a dog park?
You want a dog park?
I want a dog park so bad.
Use it up, wear it out, make it do or do without. There's a certain sense of that. People call me the idea lady, which I love. I just got coined with that the other day. And I am like that.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Local Friends, Local Leaders, conversations with progressive candidates in southeastern Connecticut. And folks, we got her. We got Cate. Cate Steele. Ever heard of her? She's a retired educator and speech pathologist running to be the state rep for Connecticut's 37th district. Hey, that's me. And maybe you. Cate's running to reform our healthcare and education systems, as well as address the very real issue of climate change. We got into all that and more in a wide-ranging interview that starts right now. Cate, thanks so much for coming out and meeting me on the beach today. I'm so excited to talk to you and meet you for the first time today. For both myself and anyone watching, can you introduce yourself?
Oh, it's so nice to meet you, Ben, and I've heard so many wonderful things about you. Actually, I was able to even see another interview that you did, and you're so talented. So thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So you want to know something about me, like where do you want to start? Tell me where to start.
Let's start with why you want to be a state representative.
I want to be a state representative, and I want to be your state representative because you live in the 37th district, East Lyme, right?
True.
And this would also be East Lyme and Salem. So I want to be your state representative because I think that the current representative that we have has said no on so many important things, and she really doesn't come up with alternative ideas or answers. She just says no, and she says it's tough, or there's a lawsuit against this, or there's some other reason that says it's prohibitive, and everything can't be no. We have to say yes and think about it. People call me the idea lady, which I love.
Yes.
I just got coined with that the other day, and I am like that. I am a creative thinker, a problem solver. If there's ever a situation where somebody says no to something, I'll say, okay, but how can we figure it out for the betterment of whomever?
I love the idea lady. I love that. Let's talk about some of those big ideas. What do you want to do once you get to Hartford?
Well, one thing we have to do is get past COVID. COVID is just number one. There's cases here in town of people who have COVID, and COVID is a deadly disease. Currently, 220,000 people, and that's like Des Moines, Iowa. I'm from the heartland, so that means like an entire town, an entire city is completely wiped off the map. That's amazing, and that's deadly. Until we get past COVID, we can't move forward. We totally have to have that because it's good for economics, it's good for our health, and there's organ damage as a result of COVID. So we have to be very, very careful with that. And that's number one. We have to practice the guidelines of the CDC, and it was deemed a pandemic in January of 2020, and we're just going to be coming into the second wave of this pandemic. It's serious. It's deadly.
One of the big cornerstones of your campaign is environmentalism. I have a couple questions about this. In terms of big picture, for a coastal community like East Lyme,
right,
how important is it to address climate change now and not, well, it is already too late, but when it's too late in the future?
It has to happen. It has to happen now. From everything from water, from open space to recycling, everything needs to be current, and we need to look at the bottle bill, the container redemption program, and that is actually a revenue driver. It's not just good for the environment, it's good for revenue into our state. It brings in jobs, it brings in the redemption of the bottles, and there's people who are marginalized in their life experiences, either because of intellectual disabilities or people who have been incarcerated, who are willing to work at redemption centers and make it so that they can recycle these bottles. The other thing I think we need to think about a lot is what to do with the plastics. Previously, we sold our plastics to China. We shipped them off. And in speaking with Senator Blumenthal last night, he suggested that that would be a possibility to create a warehouse where we could actually open it up and make it so that our products, our recyclables, that raw material could be made into new objects like chairs or flip-flops.
What are some things that we as individuals can do to reduce our personal impact on the environment in the day-to-day?
The carbon footprint. Yes, I love that. I try to bike as much as I possibly can, and biking is a good form of exercise. So what else can we do? We can carpool. I think we need to look at how we purchase things, what kinds of products we're purchasing. And I think that eventually I'd like to put pressure on the big manufacturers for soap and the big jugs that you purchase. Like, why do we buy these huge plastic things that is basically water when we have water that comes into our house? So that needs to be reimagined.
Makes me so mad. Just when people drinking bottled water at home. We have good tap water here.
Right. But the manganese levels have been a little bit high, so I can understand people's concern about, not that I am a strong proponent of that, but I'm a strong proponent of maybe filtered water.
True.
And somehow thinking about that. So electric cars, electric trains, electric buses, shuttles that would go from one part of the town to the next. We need to not have single occupancy cars going around. We need to think about our water, turning off the water, simple things like when you're brushing your teeth. The Price administration, use it up, wear it out, make it do or do without. There's a certain sense of that. And it's okay to buy vintage, reused things and reuse them and reimagine them, making them better. The important thing, Ben, is that you're thinking in that way. When you start to think about every little thing, like your dental floss container, that little plastic thing that it comes in, does it need to be as big as it is? Could it be just a little bit smaller? Could it have less of an environmental impact? I mean, everything along that line. Once you start thinking like that, then you see the litter on the street, the litter in the shrubs, and you start to imagine, why does it have to be this big? Why can't it be smaller? And then you start to think about the water and the land and how you're preserving or saving, and it starts there. It has to start someplace. But once you start to get that into your head, then you're in a good spot.
You talked about, and I totally agree, that COVID is the number one problem, the number one issue that we're facing today. The hope is, it's sometime next year that we do turn the corner and we do return to some sense of normalcy once a vaccine is widely distributed. Besides COVID, what are some of the issues that are really important to East Lyme and Salem that you want to deal with as a state representative?
Education would be the first thing that I would have to say. Education is just so important, and my friends who are teachers tell me how hard they're working. I hear from the teachers, I hear from the parents, and I hear from the students. It's hard at all levels, and it's hard for the administration as well because there's no easy answer. But what we need to do is to reimagine schools as well. We're so locked into grade 1, grade 2, on up to 12, right? And then even preschool. But as a speech pathologist, who somebody was an interventionist, I always worked in the schools, and I loved the opportunity to be in the schools, and it was always about skills. So sometimes I would perhaps have a first grader with a third grader if they're working at the same skill, and that's reimagining the skill level and the instruction, and that's okay. So almost when we're doing this intervention and doing it digitally, it would be possible to teach a skill or teach a unit and have it be the concept and the instruction, because a lot of what happens in the curriculum is that it gets recycled, and at different levels it gets more complicated, but when it's at the initial level, it's just an introduction. So it's really imagining schools to be done differently. And we still have this brick and mortar concept of schools too. And the other thing I'd really like to do is to help to get parents more engaged and involved. And that's what I did as a speech pathologist. Again, I was always about helping the family do the intervention as much as possible. Because as a speech pathologist, I would only get to see my students maybe an hour a week, sometimes half an hour a week. For the really challenging kids who has severe autism or something, perhaps I'd see them 4 times a week. But it's not like a regular classroom teacher is my point. So what you do then is you engage everybody in whatever it is, and you have the child be his own ambassador or her own ambassador for what their learning is. And then they say, like, I'm working on complete sentences, or I'm working on, I don't know, the R sound or whatever it is, and they let people know so people can gently remind them, oh, you said this instead of that, and helping them to make that next step forward, if that makes sense.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, now I want to get to the real question while I got you here. You're a big proponent of public space, using green space and everything. I grew up in Waterford, went to school in Waterford. I live in Niantic now. There's always been this friendly competition between Waterford and East Lyme, both on athletic fields and just in general. And I think in a lot of ways, East Lyme kind of takes the cake. We got these beautiful beaches, the boardwalk, a beautiful centralized Main Street. Why does East Lyme not have a dog park? Because that really is like the last sort of thing that Waterford really has going for it. And it feels like an easy miss layup.
You want a dog park?
I want a dog park so bad. I have to drive like 25 minutes, door to door from my door to dog park gates, like 25 minutes. I just want to chop a little bit of time off there, and I want to meet my neighbors with dogs, and we need a dog park.
Oh, okay. Well, there has been some talk of dog park, and there was a spot that was picked out, I think, on the north end of town in Flanders, so it still might be a 15-minute drive for you.
That's true. Yeah, we need a Black Point dog park.
You want it in a specific place.
There's an empty lot. We've scouted it out.
Okay, well, I think dog parks are an interesting way to get your dog socialized and to meet with other people. And I have a dog, and my potential eventual plan for my dog is that she could be a therapy dog, because
love it.
I love the idea of dogs and being good companions for people and helping people. So absolutely, dog parks are something that a lot of people have talked about. And if you're a strong proponent of it, then I would work on seeing if we could make that happen. The problem with politics is right now, it's not that people are bickering, because you know what you need to do is show people the difference between you and your opponent. People really don't understand or do the homework or do the research on how people vote on different things or the impact of the work that they've done. My opponent really basically has been kind of a place keeper in her position, and really hasn't, for 4 years, hasn't really accomplished much, if anything. So I would really like to be your strong voice and to move a lot of things forward. The other day I was saying, well, was she your strong voice when she voted no on the ban of bump stocks? I mean, seriously, Sandy Hook is just 100 miles away from us. And she says she's a strong proponent of mental health. But I think it's just a tagline for her. For me, mental health is everything. Mental health is having a job, having a community that supports you, having good health, having a purpose in your life and a mission, something that you want to accomplish. It's not just a soundbite. Mental health is how we treat everybody. We have to be generous and kind and supportive. And if we want to give somebody feedback, we don't call them a name, and you learn that in kindergarten. If you don't like what somebody says or does, you give them constructive feedback in the most gentle way possible. There's one of my constituents going by.
Well, Cate, thank you so much for sitting down and talking to me today. This was awesome, and unfortunately, with my conversation with Baird, I couldn't say this in the end because I don't live in Waterford anymore, but I'm so excited to vote for you on November 3rd, and I'm going to fill in that bubble so aggressively, and I'm excited to vote for you, and I'm excited to have you in Hartford. So thanks again so much for sitting down with me, and good luck.
Thank
Last
you.
Stretch.
Thank you for the opportunity. Right. Yeah, we're in the home stretch, trying to finish strong and do a good job. And I will work hard. I will be your voice. I will work hard, and I'm going to listen. I'm going to learn, and I'm going to legislate. So I will be there for you.
Let's do it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Cate. Thanks so much for taking the time to watch my interview with Cate. If you made it this far, you don't need me to tell you that Cate's going to be a state rep actually interested in finding solutions to our problems. And that's really important in this time of many problems. You've got 5 days left to vote for her. Please do that, and please have a good day.